Okay, in the previous tutorial we worked pretty hard to establish our inventory screen and connect these text objects with Bob's actual inventory. So let's look at that for a second. Let's open up our global variables and let's scroll down. Here's Bob's inventory, right? And this is keeping track of what items Bob currently owns and is carrying. And you'll see that slot 1, is filled because there's a 1 there. There's 1 of it in terms of the count, and it's filled with item number 4, which is the health potion. And as you'll see, we've got that there. Now the only problem is, once we put this into action, you can see that it's not really fitting nicely. And that's because the text itself, the names of our objects, varies quite a bit and things get pushed around. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes you try something out and it just doesn't work. But there's good news. Because we took our time and used variables to establish this, we can easily fix this. So let's do that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to main, and we're going to get rid of our inventory screen and replace it with a new one. So I'm going to hit the delete key, and then we've got 2 important questions to answer when we delete our inventory container here. So let's take our time. Don't do it, don't rush with this. So let's right click and say delete. Are you sure you want to remove this object? It can't be undone. Okay, yes, we want to remove the object. This second question is actually really important though. Do you want to remove all references to this object in groups and events? That answer is no, because we spent a lot of time writing that code and we still want to use it. So we're going to hit cancel. So now it's gone, okay? And we need to replace it. You know what, I'll show you here just in case. Let's say you made a mistake there and you hit OK and you've just deleted all that code you worked on. Here's the beauty of gdevelop. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to come up here, you're going to hit close project, and you're just going to hit OK. Alright, we closed that project up now. Now we're going to hit open project again, and it's going to reference back to the original. Now again, this is an important question. An autosave file that is newer than the project file exists. Would you like to load it instead? No, because that autosave is actually a mistake. So let's hit cancel. And now you see that it brought up our screen again to where it was, when we began this tutorial. So don't freak out if you make a mistake like that. Just close it out and open up your last save. You should be saving at the end of all of your successful tutorials anyway. Alright, let's keep going. So let's delete this again. We want to delete this as well, our inventory container. And the answer is yes and then no here. We don't want to remove our references. And now let's add our new container. And yes, we're going to call this the same thing so that it works with our code. Take your time, inventory container here. Okay, I made a new container with Paint 3D. It's 400 by 600. First thing we want to do is make this global again. Yep, global. Then let's drag it onto the screen and set it up approximately where we'd like it to be. Okay, that's fine. Let's go to the kingdom. Now let me zoom in here. Anytime you have a scene where the camera follows the object, your player, and your player's in the middle, that player basically lives in this gray square. So the question is, do we want our inventory screen to half cover up Bob? Probably not. So let's change this. Let's hit our properties window here. Right now it's at 364. Let's try 370. Okay, that looks fine. So let's go to our main scene again, and let's be consistent here. Let's change this to 370. And if this didn't pop up, just start moving it here and it'll change it. See? It'll pop up there. So 370. And we have to make sure we associate these objects with the correct layer again. So click on that. Let's do base layer inventory. The nice thing is the Z order stayed the same. It's still 507. And let's go to the kingdom and let's associate that with the correct layer as well. Inventory layer. And now when we hit preview, here's our new inventory screen, and we just have to move these now. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the picture here. Okay, the picture, because the picture is going to stay the same whether we make it 32 by 32 or 64 by 64. That's always going to be that same size, so it won't grow or anything. If we move the text over here, it can get as long as it needs to. Okay, there's a little more room for adjustment. So let's use our code to change where the positioning is in the text box. Let's go to Project Manager, Game Settings, Global Variables, and let's go down to our inventory container. Let's change our text for each one to it's got to give us enough room to have a 64 by 64. Let's do 150. Let's try that. We'll change the X position for each of these. Whoops. To 150. Okay. Now the first Y position is probably still pretty good, actually, right? The first Y is going to go 90 pixels down from the top of our inventory container. And then we just want to add, let's see, again, 64 by 64. Let's add 75 pixels in between each one. So if the first one is 90 down, the next one should be 75 after that. So 90 plus 75 equals 165. So slot 2 should be at Y 165. Let's add 75 to this. That equals 240. Slot 3, Y should be at 240. Okay. Let's add 75. Slot 4 should be at 315. And then add 75 to the last one here, 390. Okay, let's see how we did. Hey, not bad. I like it. We'll have our pictures over here. We still have some room down here for buttons, for things like deleting items and whatnot. And that looks a lot cleaner. So that's the beauty of actually organizing your code and doing things via variables so that you can change them up as needed.